The last 3 cricket titles made by Big Ant Studios have all been solid. Not one can be called a bad game. I have compared them separately, but let's put all 3 against each other at once and see how they fare. Cricket 22, the newest installment in the series, took quite a while to come out, a gap of 2.5 years between 19 and 22. And it's not just that either, newer consoles have come out in that time, so 22 had a lot of pressure to look better, to play better, and because cricket games in the past haven't added a lot of new elements, no game modes, career mode was basically the same for 6 years, the game wouldn't have been even remotely well received if career mode didn't have all the new additions 22 has. 19 was getting slightly negative reviews, and if 22, the 5th game, had the same thing over again, it would have been bad. Gameplay was never a problem. Even Big Ant Studios' first game, Don Bradman 14, was good enough. Over the years, they have tweaked the system, added a ton of new shot animations, batting stances and bowling actions. Cricket 19 added Malinga's action and Steve Smith's stance, both iconic, so it only made sense to include them in the game. But in the end, Cricket 22 and DBC 14 have the same core. When it comes down to how it looks, it's an improvement from 19, sure, but there are still a few problems. Crowds in particular look really average, to the point where playing on grounds with no stands makes the game look so much better. Player models are great, licensed players not only look great as models but are also accurate to their real life counterparts. But unlicensed players can range from decent to bad. 22 is the best looking cricket game, no doubt, but does that mean all that much? Well, that's up to you. Cricket 19 was a very different game, especially after Ashes 17, which was so focused on realism. But the Big Bash game that came before 19 definitely had an impact on the series. Cricket 19 was fast paced, it looked different, gameplay was still very challenging, but the game felt less like a simulation. It still was a good game, batting was extremely satisfying, bowling was improved as well. When you keep bowling good deliveries, you got edges, LBWs, clean bowls, and almost every kind of dismissal, which wasn't the case with previous cricket titles, where you could only get the batsman out with LBWs and bowls. Slips were almost unnecessary, but Cricket 19 made bowling so much more rewarding by making every form of dismissal possible. Ashes 17 was a great game, especially after DBC 17, which might be the weakest in the series. It was clunky, it looked dead average, and was filled with issues. But just a year later, Ashes 17 came out and it had none of those problems. It looked great, I've said this countless times, but graphics wise, the game was on par with 19, a game that came out a year and a half later. The game played like a dream, bugs and glitches were rare, game modes were pretty much the same, career mode was almost exactly the same, but gameplay felt 100 times better. The pull animation here was so beautiful, and not just the pull, almost every shot had wonderful animations. I don't know if it was motion capture or something else, but even a simple forward defense is rewarding when you execute it properly. 22 has no new game modes, but the career mode here has more depth and layers to it. Post-match presentation, training drills, and more. Developers have clearly made an effort in this aspect, especially when you consider they released 4 games before this with, as I said, basically the same career mode. Fun little mini games outside the pitch means you don't feel like you're playing match after match after match like it's the exhibition mode for no reason. Here you can hit the gym, lift some weights, increase your attributes, but also while being careful to not get injured. These mini games are interactive, some quick time events to keep you engaged. Additions like those outside the pitch are great, but how is the game when you're on the ground playing cricket? Well, it's great if you love cricket or at least like the game. It doesn't have the fluidity and appeal of other sports titles where even if you aren't a fan of that particular sport, the game is still enjoyable like FIFA or NBA. You don't need to like football or basketball to enjoy those games. You could just put them on and have fun. In fact, all 3 of these games require some kind of love for cricket in order to enjoy them. Cricket 22 tries to appeal to casuals and it does a great job, but it's still not going to bring in someone that has no clue about cricket. Maybe it's the game's fault, or maybe cricket is just designed that way. Test match cricket is like classical chess, but even the longest chess games finish in 8 hours, but cricket can go on for 5 times as long. So, career mode in Ashes 17 and 19 don't have those mini games, but somehow you could still play through a couple of careers without ever being bored. Just put it on the hardest difficulty, both selection and the actual gameplay, and getting to every next level is hard enough that you need to pay attention. Hitting sixes every ball and scoring hundreds every match is fun for a while, but struggling to even touch the ball and then scoring even a half century will make you want to keep playing the game. Ashes 17 is geared towards those hardcore cricket fans who'll watch every ball in a test match even if it's looking like it's going to be a draw. The game is slow, realistic, very much a simulation, but it's still so much fun to play any format here. 19 added a ton of new shot animations, almost all of which look great. From the little lofted flick to the sweep, the game not only has a high number of options, but also every shot is pretty accurate. 22 only improves on this, adding even more shots and improving existing animations even more. Well, except for, as I said in an earlier video, the straight drive, which still doesn't look as good as it should. But other than that, there are multiple shots in the same direction, which mostly makes sense. Some shots like an uppercut against a spinner that goes over first lip for a 6 and 100-meter 6 no less, that doesn't make much sense, does it? Little things can mess a game up like commentary. It hasn't been great in these games, especially when you consider the people doing voiceovers are excellent commentators in real life. But somehow when we hear them in-game, they sound flat, emotionless, almost robotic. Cricket titles in the 2000s didn't have this problem at all for some reason. Cricket 07 or Ashes 2009 had brilliant commentary. They didn't get repetitive, but it wasn't even close to as robotic as it feels in these games. In my opinion, Cricket 22 is the better game. If I had to rank all three of them, it would be Cricket 22 at number 1, followed by Ashes 17 and Cricket 19 at number 3. 22 of course has the better graphics, gameplay that gives the player a ton of freedom and a really good career mode. Ashes 17 has incredibly realistic gameplay that will be fun for any true cricket fan who loves the little things, defending and leaving, beautiful drives and pulls. Cricket 19 is at third place not because it's a bad game, it's just that the other two are really good. But if you want a more fast-paced cricket game, 19 might be the one for you. Well, we have come to an end. If you have any video ideas that you'd like me to make sure to comment down below. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this one. Chances are you'll enjoy most things on the channel and also future uploads. Like, comment, share and all that. Thanks for watching and have a great day wherever you are.